Hey, good morning, guys. We are back, and now in the last video, we took care of the get request. So, in this video, we're going to handle our delete request. Okay, I usually do that one second after I do my get request because it's a little easier. It's not as complicated as creating a new one where you actually have to pass headers into your API or updating where you actually have to also post headers or put headers or whatever into the API. So this one is it's a little bit easier because you just have to like filter out things. All right, so the process to delete is actually something that we've been doing already. We just have to like modify it a little bit. All right, so first thing is let's clean up a little bit. We're gonna get rid of this off here because we're not gonna need it anymore since we're now using the observable and the right way to collect data from the API. We don't need this anymore, so let's just clean that up, and that's about good right there. Okay, everything is working. All right, so what is the first thing that we're gonna do? Well, first of all, we need something to trigger the delete, right? So we're gonna need, let me get rid of this cup of coffee there before I spill it. So first we're gonna need some kind of button to delete each task, right? And we're using these icons right here. So we're gonna do the same thing basically. We're gonna add an icon. So if we go to the task, pages, task item, and task item component. Okay, so if we go to the task item component, remember we put these icons in here for this. So we're gonna do something similar. We're also going to need the task item component TypeScript. Okay, so we're gonna do that, and then what we're going to do is we're going to go to Font Awesome icons, and we're gonna look for the icon that you want to use. In this case, trash is fine, so we know it's called trash. So we're going to bring it in FA trash. FA trash, and there is a FA trash alt. What is it? Is it that? Let's see if these the FA trash alt. Let's print that one. All right, so now we need to declare here. So FA trash alt icon equals FA trash alt. And now if we go, we can close that. If we go to the task item component, now we can go ahead and let me just put that there, and then bring in this icon in there. We won't need this condition, and then we copy this, or cut it and put it in there, and let's see if it worked. It did. Oh, because it's FA trash alt icon. There we go. All right, so it's there, and it's ugly, but it's there. All right, cool. So one thing we're gonna need to do before we move into the actual functionality on this is get some space between these icons and maybe color that icon in red, because it's a negative impact. It has a negative impact on any action that has negative impact action should be denoted with something red. It should have a way to show that you're trying to do something that is going to destroy data, that is going to remove something. Okay, so it should be evident. Eventually we're going to bring also a way to trigger a modal window where it's going to show a message before it actually deletes it. So, but we're gonna get it to work first, and then once we get it to work and to successfully delete, then we'll add the modal confirmation modal after, possibly in the next video. All right, so let's work on the design to make sure that this thing is evident. So the first thing that we need to do is I'm gonna bring in a class. So these task icons right here. So if you go to the styles SAS folder here, I want you to put that in there, okay? And this class basically, it adds a little bit of space between the icons. So we're gonna go ahead and do that and just hit enter, and it will already automatically give you the space because it was already done. The task was already added. I just forgot to give you the CSS. Alright, but the actual color hasn't been added. So now there's two different ways that we can do this, and I'm going to show you both ways. Okay, one is making use of a director called ng style. So ng style uses produces inline styling. So if I do ng style, and because it's a directive, I gotta use that, and that's going to produce a string, but I have to use inside it an expression, and in the expression I am going to say color. That's got to be in quotation marks, and the color is going to be, let's call it blue, just so you can see it, so you can see what I mean. And if you do that, you see it colors it blue. So now if we look at it, it's going to be an inline styling. So if we look at the FA icon for the trash, you can see here that it added a style attribute and then a color blue in it. So it is something that you would use if you needed to do anything conditional, right? It's not the right way to do it in this case, but it's something that I wanted to show you. So like for example, you could do this if the task, for example, this for task reminder, if it had a reminder, this is not what you would normally do, but you would put it here so that if the task reminder is true, to give you a color blue, but if it's false, to give you a color, you know, red or something like that. Obviously we're not gonna do that. That doesn't make any sense, but it just it shows the idea of what you can do with this, and it's basically to make sure that you use the inline style with some conditional behavior behind it. Okay, but because we're not doing this conditionally, the trash icon is going to be red at all times. We're not going to do it this way. The way we're going to do it actually is by adding a class to it, and then that class is going to be text danger. Text is what Bootstrap uses to target the foreground color of things, or the foreground, yes, the foreground of things. If it was background danger or BG danger, if it said this, then it will be the background of the icon. But because it's text, that means it's going to be the color, not the background, the color. So if I hit enter and I hit save, it's going to make it red. Okay, I don't really love that red, so let's see something more, something that looks a little brighter. Maybe that one. Yeah, just do that one. C41717. All right, so we're done screwing around with this. We can go ahead and close this style sheet and take some of the space off. All right, so now the one thing that we need to do is we need to start creating in this task component the ability to delete, right? So we have to add to this icon an event, a click event in this case. So I'm gonna go ahead right here on the beginning, and I'm going to add a click event, and I'm going to call it delete, just delete, and then I'm gonna pass the task, right? I'm gonna pass the task that I'm deleting on. If you don't, then it's just going to be a delete action and nothing else. But if you pass the task, then, which is this object here, then hopefully we'll be able to, not hopefully, we will be able to catch it. Now once we hit enter, obviously that delete doesn't exist, so we have to wire it up, and it's gonna break, as you can see down here. So we have to go to the task component, and then down here we're going to make use of our function that we created, and there it is, delete, and then we pass the task, and then inside, just so we can see what we're doing, we're gonna do a console log and then delete it, and then we're gonna console log the task object, and hit enter. And now if we, I don't know if this is the right one or not, it should be. Okay, so if we delete it, if we click delete, now you see the console log here where it says delete, and then the ID is 3 supplies shopping, so it's obviously that one. If we click on this one on the top, then the ID is 1 doctor appointment, so we are actually able to delete the right one and hit the right one. Okay, so that's good. All right, so now we know it works right from this here, but the only thing is that we don't want to be able to control this this action from in here. We want to be able to control this action from the higher scope, from the tasks, actually from the higher level. That's where our services is being called, and to populate them. So we want to be able that you can delete them from the same place you populate them from. Okay, that makes everything a little bit better, because you can make even better conditional statements and evaluations later if they both kind of live in the same spot. All right, so in order to do that, we have to be able to emit this this action here, this event, to the parent. So we did this before already. The way we're gonna do is we're gonna bring in the output and the event emitter and there, and then right here we're gonna create an output. Now this is gonna get a little tricky here, because there's going to be a few things that you have to bring in. So I guess before we do that, let's go to here and call it no, let's leave it at delete. So we created a delete task right here, right? Let me see. Let's call it something different. Let's call it this is what we're going to call from the parent. On delete. Let's call it on delete task. And then to on delete task, we're going to TypeScript it as an event emitter of task. Okay, make sure you get rid of that. And that's going to be a new event emitter method. Okay, so that's it. Because all we did was basically assign an event emitter of this type, right, to this task. By typecasting like this, we're making sure that when we fire this event emitter, that it's going to look and make sure that the task that you're deleting, it looks like the task format, or properties, and what's called the schema that you're trying to delete. All right, so now that we have that, now we can go to the delete task right here that we're calling from here to the delete task, and then we can attach it to that, so that when you click on this delete task right here, it actually fires up the undelete task that we created. So on the delete tag here, we can go ahead and get rid of this. Then we can call this onDelete task, so it can fire that, and then we're going to emit it. We're not going to fire it, actually. We're going to emit it. We're going to send it out to someone to use it, and we're going to pass the task along with it, with the emission. Okay, so this is still not going to be ready to be used, but it is ready to be used by somebody, this onDelete task. So now if we go to the task component, to this task component here, let's create some space by doing this thing here. What did I do? There. And at the end of it, we're going to now bring in the, what did I call it? onDelete task component. There you go. We're gonna bring in the onDelete task component, and we're gonna bring in the, I'm sorry, this is the click event. Sorry, onDelete task component is going to then be the action that is going to the action that is going to fire. And then this one we can call it on delete, just on delete, not on delete task, but just on delete task, on delete task. There you go. So basically what we're doing here is we're saying, what we did here was we created an output and we call it on delete task, and then we assigned an event emitter to that on delete task. Then on this delete action that is assigned to the icon itself, right, delete task, we assign to that delete task that action that we are trying to emit, and we named it on delete task, and we went and go ahead and emit it, but we made sure that we added the task object so that when you emit it, you send the task object with it from that click. Okay, then we caught that, we received that here on this on delete task as the action event, as the event that is going to fire, and then now we gave that an instruction to fire this. Now all we need is to actually give this function that we are firing the actual instructions that we want. I know it looks like a lot of back and forth, but it is the way it is. So we're not going to do that in the neon unit, obviously, because we don't want to fire that off when the browser loads, right? You don't want to delete things when the browser loads. That will be horrible. Don't do that. As soon as your website turns on, everything gets deleted because it's doing it on load. So make sure that you don't put it in there. Be careful. Alright, so now we have this on delete task, and then now we're going to go ahead and do a console log again, and this time we're going to call it deleted from task parent, and we're gonna then call the task and hit enter. Now let's see if it works. So if I hit delete, it says deleted from task parent, and it shows you the task. Same thing with the 2, same thing with the 1. So we are catching the event. All right, cool. So we got that going. Now we actually need to make sure that we delete it from the service, right? We need to create a service to delete it. So let's get rid of some stuff here. We don't need this task item component anymore. No, we don't need any of that. So let's go to the service, and now in the service we're gonna create our first our next delete. Actually, you know what, let's just organize this a little bit, because I like doing this, because eventually you're gonna do a bunch of get requests and a bunch of delete requests and a bunch of, you know, like that. So I like to do them, organize them. So I put all my get requests in here, and then I'm gonna put what is this, delete requests. Okay, now I'm gonna put my delete request here. Let's call it delete task, singular, because you're only deleting one task. And now for the delete task, you're going to delete the task, so you got to bring in the task, and you got to typecast it to an object of task. Okay, a single task, not a task. Don't typecast it to this. You don't want the task to equal a single task to equal an entire array. You want the single task to equal, you know, be the same schema of a single task object in the array. All right, and then that is going to bring in an observable, and the observable is going to be of type singular task. Okay, and now we're going to do some work in there. All right, so what we're going to do here is we're going to return something, and what we're going to return is basically the request, right? We're going to do the request, and then in the request we're going to basically target the ID of the task that we're clicking on, because what you should do is you should always try to look for a unique identifier for that particular item that you're trying to delete, so that you can target it and delete it. So you don't want to go by the name, for example, because it could be anything, you know. But the ID is usually unique. Like there could be 2 tasks named the same thing and have the same date, and have the same reminder, of course, but they will not have the same ID. So by having the ID as a unique identifier, you'll be able to target exactly the one that you're deleting. So what we're going to do here is we're gonna do our call to this HTTP request, right? We're making an HTTP request here, so we're going to use the HTTP client, and then we're going to fire off our delete request, which is what it's called, and that's going to be of task. The type, we're going to typecast it to a regular task, singular task, and then what we're going to pass is we're going to pass this root task plus task ID. Yep, there you go, because we do have access to a task, right? This is why we are making sure that we bring in the task in here so that we can have access to the ID that is in it, and then add it in here. Okay, and I was gonna mess up, and you need that. So basically what this is doing is just listen, all you gotta do is just kind of like, remember the game from like kids that have like a circle, a triangle, and a square, and they have this circle, triangle, square, they have to like put it in the circle inside the circle type of deal. This is basically what we're doing here. Okay, we're filling in the blanks. So if we were going to fill this in the blanks, fill the blanks in this, it will be like this. This add root is this right here, this add root. So we're gonna do that. Okay, and plus this. So we're gonna grab this plus the task ID, which it could be 4, could be 3, could be whatever. And then this is what it will look like. This localhost 3004 task ID 3. So if we were going to come over here and do that and press enter, you see it shows the ID of 3. So this is what that does. This right here is a string construction. Okay, that's what I call it. I don't know if that's the right name for it or not, but that's what I call it. It's a construction. I'm constructing a string based on properties and strings together. There are other ways that you can do this, of course. You can do this by string literal, and we could do that if I showed you, and it's probably a neater way to do it. Let's see, if I do string literals, and then here I'm going to put this inside squiggly things and put that there, put that there, and then put that there and that. So this is the exact same thing. It's basically the same thing. Instead of using this is more like ES6 and this is ES5. It's an older JavaScript way of doing it. This is a newer JavaScript way of doing it. So for the sake of learning, you know, right, because this is what this is for, it's for learning, I'm actually going to leave it like this so that you have both ways to understand it. The ES5 one. Man, my allergies. So that you have the ES5 way to do it and the ES6 way to do it, right? Newer JavaScript. All right, we're gonna delete this down here because that's not going to work. And then we're gonna hit enter. Let's back this up as well because I want to be able to have that. All right, so you see nothing is breaking, everything is fine. All right, so we did that. All right, and now what we need to do, let me make sure that I'm not skipping anything in my notes. Okay, this task items. Alright, so now that we did that, the next thing that we're going to do is to actually create the delete. Alright, so we're going to go to the task component, and right here on the delete task, we're going to get rid of this because we're not going to need that anymore. We actually are going to do the actual delete task in there. So the first thing you're going to do is you got to call the service, right? Because you created a delete inside the service. So this dot task service, right? Now you call the service. Got it. Now what do you do with the service? Oh, first of all, before you do that, we got to make sure that we typecast this to task. Okay. I know it's annoying. Gotta do it. Alright, so we did that. So now in task service, you call the service. Now the service is like, okay, you got me. Now what do you want to do? Okay, I got two things here that you can use. I got this get task and I got this delete task. Which one do you want? This delete task, right? So I'm gonna go ahead and bring the delete task in there. So that's good. And now the delete task is going to do what? It's going to delete what? The task. But we have to subscribe to it because it is unobservable. Okay, because it is unobservable, you have to subscribe to it so you can use it. So I'm gonna go ahead and break this down into another line because it's gonna start getting a little confusing here. So I'm gonna bring it down here and I'm gonna bring it to subscribe. Okay, now the subscribe is going to have, I'm gonna do that, break it down into, and it's gonna have a function inside it. Alright, this one is actually going to be like this. Alright, now in there we're going to do the actual deletion. So what we're going to do is we're going to bring in this task collection. What is it? Yeah, this task collection. We're going to bring in the object, right? Not the object, the array of tasks that we have, so all of them, right? And then we're going to equal that task collection to the same to this task. So this task collection, but we're gonna filter out, and I'll explain what this means. We're gonna filter out, let's call it task, and then task ID is not equal to, that's going to confuse you. That is going to confuse you. Because this right here, these two tasks right here, they're just variables that I'm using right now, so they're going to confuse you. This is an actual task ID, but these right here are, they could be whatever. They could be whatever I want to call it, because they're like so to speak, right? They're just temporary objects that I am using just to compare two things together, and that's it. And then I'm not gonna use it anymore. So let's just put an X on it. Let's just name X. Okay. So this is, bear with me here. When I subscribe to it, I am going to modify this task collection. I'm going to make it equal to something, right? What is it going to equal to? It's going to equal the collection minus, I'm going to filter out, minus the ID that is being clicked on that is not equal to the ID. So what it's going to do is it's going to look down and it's going to say ID 1. Let's say I click on ID 3, right? It's going to look at ID 1, and then did I click on ID 1? No. Okay, send it to the task collection. That's good. ID 2, did I click on ID 2? No. Okay, send it to the task collection. That's also going to show up. ID 3, did I click on ID 3? Yes, I did click on ID 3. Okay, filter that one out, and then it's going to attach ID 1 and ID 2 to this new task collection. Therefore, this task collection over here is going to only hold 1 and 2, and then when it refreshes, that's what you will have. Okay, hopefully that made some sense. So let's go ahead and save that. Okay, everything's compiling, and then now I'm gonna go to the db.json here so I can test it, and I'm going to create a new one, and I'm gonna give it a new ID 4, and that's going to be a throw away garbage. Hit enter. That should show up here. Okay. Oh, okay. So why didn't it show up on the refresh? Is because the refresh here is for the front end only. The db.json is working on the back end. That's not going to refresh on the front end unless you actually fire off a refresh. Okay. All right. So now you're looking at it right here. So if I hit the delete, it should go away. Boom. It went away. And if you look at the on my server over here, you can see that there was a delete request that was sent, and it deleted it from the front end, it deleted it from the back end as well, and there's that. And then if I look at the network here, I should have a delete right there, number 4. It's basically a delete request, and it's going to show you here the request method was a delete, the status goes 200, that means it was good, it happened, and everything the way that it should be will show there. Yeah, there's no headers, no response, nothing else to show. It shows you which one it deleted, the task ID of task of 4, number 4. All right, so that's it for the delete request. Is a pretty simple request, like I said. So on the next video, I actually want to make this a little better. I want to bring in from Bootstrap my modal windows, and I want to make sure that when I delete something, that it shows me a message first that says, are you sure do you want to delete this? Because I don't like that I can do this. I don't like that, especially since these two icons are so close together. I don't want to accidentally click on the notifications. I mean, click on the delete when I meant to click on notifications, and then I end up deleting something. So I want to be able that when I click on the delete, if I click on it by accident, that I have another window that tells me, hey, whoa, you clicked on something here, man. You want this? Okay. All right. So that's all I got for now, and we'll see you guys on the next one.